Today, we're having a little bit different of a format. Justin is taking over, Justin Moore, and guest teaching a workshop about a day in the life of a creator. So for those of you guys who don't know him, please mute yourselves, by the way. For those of you guys who don't know him, Justin is actually a creator. So he's a full-time content creator, primarily on YouTube, and he creates a ton of like family related content. I'm gonna unmute myself, along with his family, his wife and children. And the primary ways in which he monetizes are through brands and sponsorships. And he's also running his own cohort based course as well. Did I capture that pretty accurately?
You did. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. And Justin's based in the Bay Area. Yeah, and he has the most professional looking background. Like from a scan of this screen, you can very easily tell who is the professional content creator.
I'm trying to pop out here.
Amazing. Okay, so we have over 100 folks. And a quick reminder, we'll do workshop questions in the workshop questions channel in Slack, and I'll pick out questions that have a lot of upvotes and reactions on them. And then if Justin asks questions to you guys during the workshop itself, please answer in Zoom. Cool. Let's take it away.
All right, we ready to do this?
So ready.
Okay, let's share my screen. All right, are we good to go?
Yes.
Looks good.
All right, sounds good. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Lee. This is, yeah, really excited about this. So I'm not really I'm going to introduce myself in a little bit, but I want to get the juices flowing. I am, as Lee said, I'm Justin Moore. I'm a content creator. I've been for the last 10 years. But today we're going to be speaking about a day in the life of a creator, because I've been attending all the other workshops, and it's been super fascinating to me to just listen through kind of the business side of this whole space. And I thought it would be really valuable when Lee and I were talking about this to talk about what is it actually like to be a creator, right? I think we build products, we serve creators sometimes from a 30,000 foot view, but what is it actually like on a daily basis to be a creator? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So answer in the chat. When was the last time you actually talked to a creator? I'm very curious because hold on, let me pull up the chat here because I'm very like, I want to see what people say. Chat, there we go. This week, today.
Taking this course right now, and hearing from Justin doesn't count.
No, it doesn't count. Today. Okay, hey, love it. 2 weeks ago, frowny face. Okay, last night. This is good. I'm actually encouraged by this. I'm encouraged by this. Okay, good. Okay, so the reason I asked this is that I think sometimes
influencers. I am excited.
Oh, I heard that was Benji from It's Judy Life. I know that voice anywhere. Anyways, okay, so I'm super enthused to hear that. Super glad to hear that. I think this is what most people think it's like, right? You're lounging, you're in Greece, you're having this amazing breakfast, you're on your laptop, like posting your latest photo, right? This is the impression that I think my wife and I have done a lot of travel content over the years. And I think that this is the impression that a lot of, from the outside looking in, not just companies building for creators, but also followers, right? And this is reality for most creators in my experience, right? For both myself, we know hundreds of creators. I've worked with lots of creators over the years. And there's these two cliffs that I think a lot of creators feel, which is, on one side, you have the algorithm ready to pulverize you. And then you have financial ruin on the other side. And whether that's true or not, this is how most creators feel, right? And so you're essentially like running on this jagged little cliffside between those two things on a daily basis, okay? This is what it feels like when startups pitch creators, Okay. Speaking firsthand. Okay. Because you're busy trying to juggle so many things as a creator, right? Your personal life, your business side, understanding the twists and turns of the algorithm, right? And then here you go, you have all these startups and companies jumping into your inbox and being like, look at me, pay attention to me, right? It's very hard to get noticed. And so I wanted to put these funny little GIFs and these analogies here because this paints the picture of what it feels like to be a creator, okay? This is a real pitch that we got yesterday. I loved like doing like little things like this because it's very useful. So if the founder of this startup is in this chat, I'm sorry. I really apologize, but I blurred stuff out here so no one can see. So I want to read this real quickly, and I'm gonna just quickly go here. Hey, April Athena 7, that's my wife's username. Blank gives creators a new way to monetize directly from followers through virtual services. As a fashion influencer, here are some example services you could be offering fans. Personal fashion consultation. I will recommend a perfect dress for your occasion. I will go virtual shopping with you. Take it for a spin by yourself on our website. Like to talk sometime. I want you to answer in the chat. What's wrong with this? What's wrong with this, or how could you improve this pitch? I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Not personalized, didn't even use your name. They don't say who they are. Well, they did say who they are, but it's blurred out. Doesn't show the value for the creator. Good for them, not for you. You are not a fashion influencer. Okay, no idea how much it costs. So what? I actually still don't understand what's in it for the creators. Doesn't reference crypto. Okay, I love that. Okay, so I love this is great. Okay, so let's do some exercise here. I saw a lot of this stuff in here. Doesn't stand out from my inbox at all. A new way to monetize your passion. It's not calling me or my wife's name out in the subject line. Any specificity, doesn't feel personalized whatsoever. They're saying her username. They couldn't take 5 seconds to find out her real name. Her name's April, by the way. Right? It's in the username, right? Okay. She's not a fashion influencer. Number 3, right? How long does it take to figure that out? Right? And the rest of the email is specifically examples of being a fashion influencer. Take it for a spin by yourself. You're throwing the ball in our court. Right? So there's a lot of improvement that can be made to a pitch like this. And by the way, we get probably 10 to 15 pitches like this per week from startups and companies trying to help creators monetize. So I thought this would be a perfect example to lead off with here, right? Because this is the kind of thing that we get on a weekly basis. And we have to decide, should I give this person reaching out, why should I care? Right? Okay, so just a quick important reality check here. Okay, so why should you even listen to me? Okay, okay. So I've been a full-time creator for 7+ years, along with my wife. We've been on social media for over 10 years. I also have an influencer marketing agency called Trending Family, and I've worked with hundreds of other creators over the years, bringing brand deals to them. We paid out over $2 million for brand deals, in brand deals to creators. My next chapter of my life and my career is I'm now educating creators about how to build more diversified businesses. And it's I have a YouTube channel and TikTok, Instagram, that kind of thing, called Creator Wizard. Okay, so that's really my street cred. Okay, question. What are the top 3 things that most creators worry about on a daily basis? Let me know. Engagement, we're seeing here in the chat. Next piece of content, staying relevant content, income, generating content, paying the bills, algorithm, content views, algorithm, demonetize, getting paid. Okay, good stuff. So I saw a lot of here income, monetization, all that stuff. And while that is important, I'm actually over the course of working with hundreds of creators over the years, having lots of friends in this industry, I'm going to let you know what is anecdotally my experience is actually the case. So number 1 for most creators is actually psychological anxiety, right? Related to imposter syndrome, having to deal with cyberbullies and trolls on their social media, self-confidence, right? The next one is algorithmic, right? Some of you said this in the chat. Social media algorithmic, anxiety around, feeling like this unknown black box on this platform that they're on is just pummeling them on a daily basis and not really knowing how to control it or whether the content they're posting is pleasing the algorithm. Community also, if you have private communities, that comes from initially algorithmic anxieties. And then financial, right? So as Leah's talked about in some previous courses here, not all creators monetize. Like, that's not the top of mind for them a lot of time, right? Like you were talking about, speaking with the founder of Wattpad, a lot of creators do it for the pure joy of it, right? So financial, yes, is a very clear and present thing that most people are thinking about. But financial literacy, right? Understanding how to do their taxes as a creator, basic things, forecasting. What is my income going to look like in 3 months from now? Diversification, right? So some of the things that we talked about. So in my experience, this has been the order of importance for a lot of creators. Okay. So I thought it would be useful to break out how what the difference is between a side hustle and a full-time creator, because it's different, right? So let's talk just quickly through these. So psychological, can I really do this if I'm a side hustle creator? Can I handle the criticism? What are my coworkers or my friends or my family going to think? Right? That's what you think about when you haven't transitioned to doing this full time. But when you do transition, I kind of feel like I can do this now. I think it's a constant battle, right? It's no longer about, can I handle the criticism? I have no choice but to handle it now when I'm a full-time creator. So do I respond, delete, or block? Right? There's a shift in the logistics there. And then what are my coworkers going to think? Now it's, okay, Aunt Sarah, fine. I'll show you how to start a YouTube channel. Right? Okay, algorithmic. As a side hustle creator, how do I balance my content volume and my cadence with my 9 to 5? And how can I capitalize on every new algorithm change, right? But when I'm a full-time creator, 80 hours a week just doesn't feel like enough, right? Man, my wife and I live and breathe that all the time. And do I really have to grow on Clubhouse? That's where I'm at right now. Guys, do I really have to do that? I have like 150 followers on there. I've done like 2 rooms. Like, how do people have time to do this? Anyways, financial, right? Side hustle. This extra money every month is pretty nice. Maybe it can replace my 9 to 5 income and benefits. Right? I didn't quit my full-time job. I was in medical devices previous to this. I didn't quit my 9 to 5 job until right after the birth of my first child. So I got my previous company to pay for all those hospital bills. Then I quit, right? Because I think you think about that, right? Like benefits, like all those things think about. But then when you're a full-time creator, when am I going to have to go back and get a 9 to 5 again? You're always thinking about that, right? Can I really make this work? And man, what are tax estimate payments, right?
A quick question, Justin.
Yes, let's do it.
From the Slack. Yeah. So there was a question from Sergey on those top 3 anxieties, the psychological, algorithmic, financial anxieties, and whether they are the same by size of creator. So are like creators with 1 million followers worried about those things in the same order as like someone with 20K subs? So you only have to go so far as I'll actually talk about this in a few slides, but like you only have to go so far as look at some giant creators who have multiple millions of followers who have left their platforms, stopped making content because they couldn't handle the psychological abuse from their community. Right? So I would suggest that perhaps there's a framework there, around size of following and size of, like you have said, it's like a proxy for influence, of course. But yeah, I'll go into that in a little bit more detail about how these intertwine. Got it.
And so Lee has said, right, that the subtitle of her course is "Creators Aren't Homogeneous." Right? Who are you serving? Are you serving side hustle creators? Or are you serving full-time creators? Right? And we'll go into a little bit more detail there because there is a difference. So I'm positing, so Lee has talked about some other really interesting models around like business market fit, product market fit, this type of thing, or business content fit, something like that. And so I've got one called creator market fit. Okay, so I've got these three intertwining anxieties: psychological, financial, and algorithmic, right? And in the middle is creator market fit. So let's go through this. So if you have psychological strength and financial strength, but you don't have a good handle on the algorithmic twists and turns, your career is going to slowly die. This is my theory, right? Let's go through these real quick, okay? If you have strength on the financial side and the algorithmic side, but you don't have a good control of the psychology that it takes, the wherewithal that it takes, the self-confidence, you're going to burn out, right? And if you have a good handle on the algorithmic and the psychological, but you don't have good financial savvy, you need a team or tools to help you, right? And so what my thesis is that the platforms, the companies, the startups that focus on helping creators who are in the intersection of any of these two circles move to creator market fit, those are the ones that are going to win in the creator economy.
Question on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you double click on this a little bit more? So, okay. So if you're at the intersection of financial and psychological, like you have the psychological strength to continue making content and you're making money, but you're not paying attention to the algorithms, like not paying attention to the next new platform that I need to be
exactly.
on.
Yeah. So for example, my wife and I have been on YouTube for 7 years, or 10 years, actually. We've been making money on it for about 7 years, right? If we, not just on one platform, this is like your overall algorithmic strategy on all these platforms, right? Like if you are not now utilizing IG Reels, your reach is going to go down, right? So you can't keep posting the same, and same on YouTube, right? There was a big shift from clicks to watch time, right? So if you're not changing your content strategy relative to the changes that the platforms are making, right? You're still going to do fine. It's not like there's going to be a cliff where all of a sudden you can't be a creator anymore, but it's going to slowly fade out over time. You've seen lots of creators over the years who had these massive followings, but they did not adapt, whether it was on that particular platform where they rose to prominence or on another platform where they needed to be, where their audience was now present, that they weren't following them there. Right?
Yeah. So how does this inform your previous question on, do you really need to spend time on Clubhouse?
Well, that's a question for me, isn't it? That definitely is a question for me. And it's something that I struggle with because you only have like so much time in the day. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I want to like talk about real quick here is that in my experience as a creator, most startups focus on this one. They focus on helping add to a team, right? So whether it's managers, agents, accountants, lawyers, financial people, or tools, which is what a lot of startups are working on, is helping creators monetize in a lot of different ways, right? And that's important, right? You need that, right? But what I think is actually an interesting thought exercise, okay, is that I think we need more startups here. Okay, and this is actually the subject of our breakout today. Okay, so I'm going to want for 10 minutes, we're going to break out, and I want you to introduce yourselves quickly, and I want you to brainstorm startup ideas or platform features that could help address creator burnout, okay? Or brainstorm startup ideas for helping creators sustain and prolong their careers, not just financially. Okay, helping them understand how to have a better handle algorithmically on where they should be focusing time. And so then choose one specific approach and nominate a spokesperson. Real quick, going back to this. Okay, so this is the subject of the breakout. Okay, what ways in which can startups, businesses help creators in these two areas? Okay.
And Rachel, post the instructions in the Slack channel as well as the Zoom chat.
All right, getting them open right now.
All righty.
All right, everyone, please click join room. Sounds like it's a 10-minute breakout, right?
Mhm.
So we'll set a timer.
Hey, join room, everyone. I'm going to pause the recording to.
Oh, good idea.
Cool.
Justin, do your thing.
And we're
All
back.
right. All right, everyone. Welcome back. Hope you had a successful breakout session, made some new friends that'll last a lifetime. And now we are going to talk about, we're going to nominate in the chat. What did I just do? I'm trying to see the chat. Now I can't see it.
I
To
can
nominate, you can see the chat. Okay, you guys tell me because I can no longer see the chat for some reason. Oh, here we go. Yeah, nominate someone from your group as the chosen one to volunteer your approach for how you can help creators address burnout and sustaining and prolonging their career.
Cool. Let's call on some people. How about? Oh gosh. How about Zach Diaz for room 18?
Hi. I will give a short, sweet answer in that we've actually used a product like this. So it's not completely Genesis, but there's a service, a platform out there called healthygamer.gg. They were actually a content creator on Twitch who started servicing creators on our platform to offer coaching, not necessarily therapy, but this idea of like, let's talk out some issues that you experience as a creator unique to your service. And Twitch, in our partnerships program this year, we started offering it as a perk to partners of Twitch as a way to say that we value this, we will subsidize the cost. If you want to get really cynical, we tried to pitch it internally as like burnout is bad for our KPIs internally, and if we want to extend the life of our creators and their businesses on our platform. But there's a secondary component to it, which is trying to educate the creators that taking these self-care measures, taking these educational measures is just as important to your long-term career as it could be for your short-term. Because we discussed that there's obviously this trade-off of it's easy for employees to take PTO. It's not so easy for creators to take PTO. Even the trade-off for money lost is growth against the algorithm. So healthygamer.gg.
I love that. Thanks, Zachary. And, it's funny. Every time my wife and I would get together with our friends, especially like on YouTube, we would always call it like YouTube therapy, like literally, because we just it's like very difficult to like understand what it's like to like be a creator constantly. I mean, we were daily vlogging for like 3 years, every single day for 3 years. So it's like it's very taxing and it's very difficult to really for anyone to really understand what that does to your mental health, right? And so yeah, appreciate that perspective.
That's cool. Yeah, one of my portfolio companies also subsidizes mental health coaching for their creators. Yeah. It's a little easier because they're based in Europe, so it's cheaper than it is in the US. US healthcare makes that expensive. Okay, I'm going to call on, or Justin, do you want to call on someone?
Let's see. How about Drawer from room 15?
Of course, I was on mute. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the great slide so far, Justin. So we were thinking of something a little more radical. We saw recently an app called Pods, which kind of takes the most interesting parts of different podcasts and lets you slide through them like in a TikTok fashion. So assuming the technology is capable to do that, it would be cool to have something that goes through your existing back catalog and adapts it to whatever works best with the algorithm at the moment. So edits it a little, reshuffles it, and then basically gives you that psychological peace of mind that, this is being taken care of and you can focus on self-care or whatever it is that makes you happy.
Very cool. Yeah,
And we're
I
asking
love that.
for $5 million.
Yeah. All right. Love it. And, I think that that's actually something that my wife and I have thought, like doing a best of, like creators have done that, right? You take your back catalog, you hire some editor to like go download all your videos and make a little super cut, and let you take a break. But somehow we just never did it. I know some creators do that, but yeah, I love that approach though. I think that's really smart. Maybe we should do one more, Lee.
Yeah, let's do it. How about Maurice,
Yeah.
since 2 people nominated him?
Okay. So for the first thing, as far as how can we address creator burnout, actually our team had 2 ideas which actually combined to one. One is PTO. So it's probably a tough legal thing to do, but the idea of maybe even platforms subsidizing people to take off for a time through some type of PTO system. And if that's difficult from a platform perspective, then from a company perspective, this idea of people bundling up together. So a bunch of creators bundling up together, sharing on the upside, sharing on the downside. That means if someone takes a week off, they don't see their revenue plummet all of a sudden, but that there's at least something there. Especially on certain platforms, like obviously like Twitch, where it's subscriber based. And if you're taking a week off, you're potentially missing out on a lot of revenue. By people bundling up together and kind of filling up that gap, it could really help with burnout.
Great one, Maurice. And actually, I'm going to Venmo you $20 later because we didn't plan it, honestly, but it's great. Right. So like, these are just some of the ideas off the top of my head, that I've thought about. So like, for burnout, since we were just talking about that, right? UCI, right? Universal creator income, where either this is, subsidized by the platforms, right? Where, Hunter Walk has written articles about this, about PTO, right? Where it automatically starts curating, like, I think Drawer was talking about, your back catalog, some sort of best of, some highlights thing that shows up. And there's even a badge on your YouTube channel or on your Twitch or whatever that it says like, this person's on vacation, right? And there's some sort of way that they're not penalized by the algorithm, because there's so much urban legends or urban myths, I don't know the right way to say it is, among creators of like what does and does not impact them in the algorithm, right? Because everyone views it as a black box, for the right reasons, obviously, because if the platforms were told too much, then people would exploit that, right? But as a result, and there's some platforms that have done a good job at trying to like dispel some of these myths, but like as a result, there's just all these myths around like what does and does not penalize you. And suffice it to say, like YouTube, I can speak specifically from the YouTube experience that was a thing at one point, where if you took if you got off the content hamster wheel, you were penalized. Right?
A quick question,
Yeah.
Justin. In your experience, how much active help does the platform give you in terms of guiding you towards what content to create to help you like sustain your careers? Like, do they tell you what's trending and how to adjust your content?
Every platform is different. I think like the YouTube Creator Academy, for example, took, was great, was a great stride towards that. And a lot, TikTok and a lot of other platforms, Twitch, have done, taken strides towards trying to help with that. But in general, I think the long tail of creators, you're kind of on your own. That's the general feeling that most people have.
Yep.
And so quickly to just go through these, for career slowly dying, like, someone build me this product. I've been wanting, Lee and I were talking about this. I want this product. I'm going to give you this idea. Okay. I want a dashboard that analyzes all the places that my family is posting content and tells me where to spend my time. Right? What percentage of my time and my content volume should I be doing to maximize influence? Right? Maybe this could take the example of like, hey, you should make 3 IG guides this week because that's going to increase your organic impressions by 13%. I don't know. I'm just making something up. Right? But like something that could give me a reasonably informed direction of like what to do. Right?
Yeah. VC creators are already grappling with this with Clubhouse too. Like, how much time are we supposed to allocate towards Clubhouse versus doing all of our other thought leadership on other platforms?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my understanding is that like managers kind of do this. They tell you like what to do, what to post where, how frequently to post, etc. But are they doing it that from some sort of data-driven approach?
No.
Or is
not from my
I figured.
experience. Not from my experience. I mean, maybe some really good ones are, but they're, top quartile. It's just my experience. And I'm thinking here of like addressing the long tail, which is really, I think, super critical to solve this issue.
Yeah.
So just quickly, mental health, obviously, and then just like advanced cross-platform moderation tools. Lee, you and I were talking about this, that it's just extremely difficult to maintain an engaged community given all of the requisite work that takes to do that, right? Cool. Okay, so let's just do one thing for fun, okay? Who remembers Porter's 5 forces, right? Okay, so this is to just anyone who's not familiar. So this is a method for analyzing the competition of a business, right? He says that these 5 forces determine like the competitive intensity or therefore like lack thereof in terms of an industry, in terms of profitability, right? Okay, so what I'm positing is Moore's 5 creator forces. Okay, and what this looks like is the threat of new entry is now a threat of new content. Okay, how easy is it for someone else to come along and start making the content that you're making? Right? Instead of buyer power, it's follower power. Right? Do you have undifferentiated content? Right? Are follower switching costs low? Right? There's lots of other creators that they can, get the same content from. Are your followers well educated regarding the content that you're putting out there? Or is it, really hard for them to come by somewhere else? Right? And the threat of irrelevance instead of the threat of substitution, right? Instead of consuming your content, can they get the same entertainment value somewhere else, like from Netflix or something? Right? So, I mean, if there's no switching costs for the followers, right? Like reduced happiness from hearing your voice, right? Entertainment, that's a problem. And then instead of supplier power, it's platform power, right? What pressure can the platforms exert on creators' businesses by changing things like the algorithm? Or maybe messing with the ability to reach your followers. Right? So I just want to get you guys in this frame of mind. It's like, these are a lot of the very high level things that creators are thinking about. It's not just about the money. It's not always about the money, I must say. I would say. And so, but obviously money is important. So I do want to get into the brands and advertisers side of it.
Just a quick question. Sorry to interrupt. Okay, so this is so fascinating. I want to sort of talk about this in relation to the concept of cult creators that I had introduced last week. So creators who rise to the level of cult leaders and have like almost such a quasi-religious, emotional intensity with their followers. Do you think how does that relate to this? Is it like those creators who can rise to the level of being cult leader are more defensible versus these Moore's 5 creator forces than a creator who is just distributing like some more tangible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, because I think there is sometimes it's hard to understand and rationalize why cult leaders continue to be prominent and popular and well followed, right? And I think the same goes for very well followed creators and influencers because they're seemingly uncancelable, right? They're like Teflon, right? Their creators are so diehard about them that a lot of these 5 forces no longer matter. It seems like, right? They'll buy anything from them. They'll watch anything that they produce. Doesn't matter what platform they're on. If they have a reduced way of getting in touch with them because of the algorithm, they'll go and sign up for every other one of their platforms, their email lists, all that stuff, right? To just stay connected with them, right? So a lot of these forces, I would say, probably fit well with that thing you posited last week.
Yep. Great.
Oops. Am I ready? You still want to talk about it?
No, we're good.
Cool. Okay, so I know you all want to know, how much do creators actually rely on brands and advertisers? Okay. So let's talk about it. Okay. So let's have a story. So this is my wife, April, and that's my newborn son, Liam, at the time. Okay. This was 7 years ago, roughly. He's almost 7. And at the time, our social media business, the income that we were making from social media, was 95% YouTube revenue share. Okay. And it was 5% brand deals. Okay. Fast forward to today from our creator business, it is literally the opposite. It's a flip-flop. Okay, we have other revenue streams and things like this, but I'm just simplifying this for this example here, which is that it's literally 5% revenue share on YouTube now and 95% brand deals. So there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, just a massive proliferation in the amount of monetizable content and inventory on YouTube, right? So the percentage of your content that you can monetize is less. The CPMs are depressed for certain content verticals, right? And the opposite trend line is there's just such a more tremendous interest in brands partnering with creators, right? So those like intersecting lines lead to this scenario, right? So brands and so again, I know we're talking about a very specific type of creator. I understand that, right? You know, gaming creators and things like that, they're able to derive revenue from subscriptions and other things like that. But just for a very simplistic example here, it can be an extreme change in your business in 5 years or less, right? So as a creator, you have to be willing to adapt to that. And there's a lot of content strategy choices that come with this, right? Before I could say whatever I wanted or whatever we wanted, right? From a brand safety perspective, we could put up whatever we want, right? Now it's much more critical for us to, I mean, we were always family friendly, but it's like you have to be much more thoughtful about the presence that you're curating on social media if working with brands is a meaningful part of your business. Right? So let's talk about the brand deal sources. Right? There's influencer platforms, there's PR agencies, there's brands directly reaching out to creators now. Pretty much every brand has an influencer marketing manager now. There's influencer agencies. There's media agencies that have branded content divisions now. And there's cold pitching that you can do as a creator, outbound pitching, speculative pitching, right? This is how I feel. This is how most creators feel. Right? This is one of my favorite gifts, by the way. Sorry to that kid. Okay. So there's also cottage industries popping up for this, right? Group text threads, shared spreadsheets with brand contacts, and private Facebook groups. This is mine. I have a private Facebook group. I have 180 creators in here, and we swap brand deal intel.
Do you think brand deals should be part of the monetization of basically every creator?
I mean, you have the age-old question of like, okay, do you want to be hawking someone else's product or do you want to create your own product line? Right? That's a major decision and inflection point that I think some creators eventually come to in their career. Because you are essentially leveraging, you know, the brand is leveraged, they're renting your audience basically, right? And so obviously as a creator, you want to own a larger share of however you're able to monetize your creators. But for a reason I'll talk about in a little while, that's challenging sometimes.
Yep.
Right?
Julia, do you want to ask your question?
Which one? The latest one?
Yes.
So what is this brand deal structure that works for you? And like, if we wanted to hire a full-time influencer marketing manager, what would be the job description? I guess your answer could help us define it.
Sure. Yeah. So a full-time influencer market. So previously what most brands did is they subbed this out to their PR agency, right? Like most agencies considered working with celebrities and even digital talent as under the purview of PR, right? And so then what happened was all these influencer dedicated agencies started popping up, influencer platforms, things like that, right? Where you could sub it out to them. But now a lot of brands are realizing that influencer marketing is now no longer a bleeding edge marketing tactic. It is now something that needs to be part of the ongoing marketing mix, right? And so bringing that competency in-house makes a lot of sense, right? Because you develop those ongoing relationships with the influencer. What happens is when you sub it out, right? There's the gatekeeper, right? And you don't have as direct, you can't like email the influencer and be like, hey, we've got a new product we're developing that we think you would love. Like, let's hop on a phone call, right? It becomes less about relationship building and more transactional. But that's just, as creators have been commoditized to some degree over the years, that's difficult. So that's why I think most brands are doing that. And the job description looks like doing discovery, using social listening software to see who's already has authentic brand affinity, who's already talking about your brand, reaching out to them, negotiating contracts, doing all the campaign execution. So I have an influencer agency, and that's one of the things we do. So we focus on family-friendly influencers at our agency. That's our like wedge, right? And so brands will hire us to go out and do all that, right? But a lot of brands now are just doing that themselves.
And and what kind of deals do you actually like and want to have more?
I think most creators are looking for long-term partnerships rather than one-off deals. A lot of the influencer platforms, it's mainly one-off stuff. It's very difficult to forge long-term relationships with a platform. But when you have a brand direct contact or an agency direct contact, it's much easier to forge those partnerships. And then you have income predictability as a creator, right? So that's obviously having affinity for the brand is important, but like, turning that into a long-term thing is important. And in fact, speaking of cohort-based courses, I have my own. So I'm in week 3 of my own cohort-based course called Brand Deal Wizard. Okay, and this is a picture of me and some of our course participants, some of my students, where I have developed my own framework of how, my wife and I have earned over $3 million working with brands over the last number of years, right? So I've developed so I was doing one-on-one brand deal coaching with creators for a while, until I really realized like this is a predictable system. Like I can teach this to a lot of people, right? And so there's, again, it's a cottage industry of like helping people make this a sustainable, not only like 2x, 3x, 4xing the amount you're charging per deal, but also how to like have visibility into your system, into your pipeline, your income pipeline 6 months down the road.
Paul has a highly upvoted question in the chat. Paul,
Yes.
Do you want to unmute and ask?
Hey, Justin.
Hey, Paul.
One of the things that I am always still surprised when I talk to all sorts of different creators, YouTube creators, TikTok creators, is people still have these like 20% deals where regardless of wherever the deal comes from, the manager will still, get 20% of the brand deal. So it can come through a friend, doesn't matter. I'm curious, why is that? Is there a reason that is still around today? Is it out of date? Are there other techniques that you think are on their way out? And how can managers, better capture the actual value they're providing to creators? And I'm thinking about that chart that was like the Substack chart, or like there was like the step line graph thing.
Yeah,
you guys know what
the
I'm talking
value versus the payments.
Yeah. So it's a great question, Paul. Good to see you. Yeah, I mean, I always coach creators who are looking for managers to do a sliding scale of where the deal came from, right? So if it was inbound from your email address or your link in bio or something, maybe it's 10%. If it was something that if the manager's out there hustling for you and brought the deal in, give them 20%. You wouldn't have that deal otherwise, right? So I do encourage like creators to forge those types of partnerships. And I think honestly, it's just a holdover from the days of the MCNs and other management companies who were just collecting a bunch of creators who didn't know really any better and signing these long-term deals. Honestly, it's one of the missions behind why I've started educating creators with my Creator Wizard content, was helping people be more business savvy, because a lot of creators, most creators got into it for the love of the content, right? And they don't really understand the business side of things. So I think as more creators, to answer your question more pointedly, as more creators get more educated around this thing, I think they'll feel more empowered, especially the longer tail of creators, more empowered to advocate for themselves better, in a better way.
There's a lot more questions, but let's move on, Justin.
Yeah, I can do tons of Q&A at the end.
Yeah.
No problem. So I just wanted to hammer home why this matters, okay? To whether you're working at a platform, whether you're working at a startup, things like that, right? You have to understand your target creator's revenue mix, okay? Because if you're targeting a creator like my wife and I, for example, right, with a new app or a way to like monetize, you know, things like that, if we're making 25 times or 50 times the amount of money on this one part of our business, whether it's live streaming, whether it's brand deals, whatever it is, and you're offering me something that's 1/50th of that, it's not going to be compelling. There's no reason that I would allocate any of my time to that. Right? So it's really, really critical. What I would highly encourage you to do is go out, talk to your target customer, talk to your target creators, and understand what their revenue mix looks like. Because every creator is different. Every content vertical, every platform, their revenue mix is different. And you need to understand what drives their behavior in terms of where they're spending their time and why they're doing that. And that, I would suggest, would give your product a lot of clarity, whether it's your product or whether it's the way in which you're marketing your product. Right? And then the other thing too is that, Lee, you asked this question a little bit earlier, but selling to followers can be scary, right? Working with brands is an indirect way to monetize your followers, right? I see a lot of like, you know, app startups, all those things where it's like, oh, monetize your followers, Cameo, like all this stuff, right? And yes, that can be a meaningful thing, but a lot of creators are still very nervous to do that, right? Because somehow you are like selling out, right? Or you've built up this organic, like really intimate connection with your audience over like 5 years. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, now I'm gaining access to myself. Or I'm going to charge you for something that was free in the past. And creators can receive a lot of backlash for that. And that can be, going back to the psychological trauma or anxieties, that can be very difficult for a creator to experience. So you have to understand the psychology behind why a creator would choose not to work with you, with your startup. It's not just about the money. It's not just about dangling the money in front of them. Even it could be a lot of money and they would still say no. Because there's more at play than just the money. Okay? And how can you offer no lift diversification? Right? So another startup idea I was working on, right? I created something called influencer stock, right? Where, let's say it's on Instagram or YouTube, you have creators who are pumping out sometimes hundreds of posts, right? That either they're maybe, you know, so I did a survey, and on YouTube in particular, something like 90% of income from a lot of creators, a lot of like mid-tier, like long tail creators, comes from the content that they post in the last 30 days, right? They're not making much meaningful income on their back catalog, right? So I said, okay, well, I'm going to create, and same with Instagram, right? You're pumping out maybe 95% of your content on a monthly basis is not in partnership with a brand. It's just really compelling, high quality content, right? And there's probably brands and agencies out there who would love to repurpose that, right? So you're coming in, it's literally no lift diversification. You're saying to them, hey, I will license this content for you for 3 months, content that you're currently making no money off of, and you've already made. You've already created the content, right? So that's just an example of this, right? Like, how can you bring that idea to your product and to the way in which you're pitching it for creators? It's helping them understand, I'm not telling you you're going to need to spend 5 additional hours on this a week. I am telling you, we either have a curation team that will do it for you. We have some sort of like VIP, you know, especially if you're going after like mid-tier and like macro creators and things like that. Thinking through that makes it a much more compelling case. Okay. And I just want to like zero in on one more thing, right? Which is that creators talk. And to some degree, this is more important. They're kind of more important than a regular customer, right? Because they have a big platform oftentimes, right? So they can either praise you or flame you. Right? So just be very conscious of that in your interactions with creators. I've seen like adoption of certain platforms just go like wildfire, that go through group chats and things like that, just because it was so easy. It was so easy. It made so much sense for creators to adopt something. Just going back to the age-old like word of mouth, right? Like, why is this something that your target creator would want to share with every other creator they know? Right? Okay, so I want to make like one more offer here, okay? Which is that like my mission is to help as many creators as possible build a more diversified and sustainable business. So if creator education is something that you believe is critical to your company's mission, shoot me an email, shoot me a DM. Would love to talk and see how I can help. Hopefully this was helpful. Happy to answer any questions.
Amazing. Okay, there's so many questions in the Slack. So I will call on folks to unmute and to ask their questions. Let's go to Adrian Nam. Adrian, are you there? Okay, Adrian's on mute. Do you want to unmute?
Okay, well, while we're waiting for Adrian, I'm gonna, if you guys want, I know you guys want to screenshot this, that you were in this session, share it on social, talk about how awesome this presentation was. So I'm gonna go like this. Ready? Take a screenshot. Okay, you know why I was doing that face? I was doing that face because I have a friend who analyzed more than 10,000 YouTube videos and their thumbnails to see which emotion got the highest click-through rate. And smiling, like this, is the second to last. And shocked and surprised, that's at the top of the list. So that's why I did that.
It's like the visual version of clickbait.
Hey guys, do you hear me? This is Adrian.
Yeah. Hey, Adrian.
Hey. Sorry about that. So question is, are there benefits to living in Los Angeles as an influencer, since there is such a concentration of others, and that's important to building that essential community that even Lee talked about in the last lecture, and the psychological needs that you raised in today's lecture, as well as the services. It's kind of what the town is all about, influencer agencies and beyond. Are there other locations that are emerging as promising so-called influencer capitals? I'm thinking about like Rogan's move to Austin, or Tim's move to Utah, or Graham Stevens move to Vegas. And then what do you think the post-COVID world looks like, especially since, Justin, you have such a intimate connection with so many creators who are hustling? What's the talk among the creators in this post-COVID world, like work from home or work from anywhere? Is that going to be like a real thing? Is there going to be less geographic concentration in these influencer capitals, or is the consensus that, let's all, begrudgingly move back to LA?
That's a good question, Adrian. Thanks for the question. Yeah, so I definitely, like, for sure, like my wife and I met in LA, so we lived in LA for a long time. And there definitely was a point, for sure, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, everyone we knew was moving to LA. And we moved away, and everyone else we knew moved away. Right? So it's like, I think there is this sense that like, from a lot of creators that I talk to and know, there is this sense that like you do that to solidify your career, and then you have the independence once you've reached some modicum of success to move away. To move to a place that has lower cost of living or something like that, right? So I think that's only going to accelerate in post-COVID. Like I'm not necessarily sure whether it's Miami, whether it's Austin, whether it's PNW or whatever it is. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that those hubs. I mean, like, look, you had like for a while like YouTube Space and like all these things that they were opening where you could go to as a creator to like shoot content and things like that. I think collaboration is will hopefully come back at some point, but I'm not sure I see that in the next like 2 years at least, or 1 year. I don't know. I could be wrong, but like, and I would say it probably depends on the content vertical for sure. But and perhaps your age too, if that's like a really critical part of like the experience that you want to have as a creator. Because I mean, to be fair, like it's definitely a tried and true tactic. You move to LA, you collaborate with a bunch of other people who have a lot of, followers and live in a house with them or whatever, sway house, this kind of thing, right? It's a pretty much tried and true way to grow if you can do that. So I think that will always happen, but I'm not so sure it's going to be the pilgrimage that it once was.
Awesome.
Thanks, Justin.
Theo, you're up next.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Hi. So my question revolves around this trend of large creators taking equity stakes in companies that pitch to them, rather than taking the usual cash payment for their sponsorship. So the example that comes to mind is like Mr. Beast and Honey. Even though I think after negotiating, they actually didn't grant him any equity. I think he tried a couple of times, but recently there's been a trend of large influencers trying to self-promote companies that they're invested in.
And I guess up-leveling from that question, like how interested are creators in the startup world, and what form do they want their compensation to take?
I mean, I think that you're totally right. You have that luxury when it doesn't matter whether you get cash or not, right? It's very hard to make that decision and take shares or options or something like that if like you need $1,000 that month to like make rent or whatever. So that informs your decision pretty quickly, right? And I would say that there's a much larger percentage of creators who are nowhere near as business savvy to really understand either A, how they would even do that, and B, why that would or even have that long, like that time horizon to see that pay off. Right? Or just be able to even analyze in a critical way, a company's long-term prospects. Right? I'm trying to change that, trying to help creators become more business savvy, but it's like, I think the majority of creators, like, here's the thing, like once you reach that certain level of success, you can start thinking like of these much more esoteric solutions to your monetization aspirations. Right. So it's like, it makes it a lot easier to like visualize like, oh yeah, like I could see like this company paying, helping pay, becoming a 15-20% share of my revenue pie, like in 3 years or whatever. Like you don't get to that point unless we've reached a certain baseline level of success and financial security, I would say.
Thank you. That makes sense.
That's really interesting. So for creators who are like cash poor but status rich, they might not find equity compensation very appealing because it's so abstract what this could be worth, and they have more pressing financial concerns.
Yeah, especially because there's just such a proliferation of companies in this space. So it's like, unless you're Lee with a venture fund whose job it is to vet startups, you're not going to spend the time doing that. Pay me. Right? Or even understand like how to have a criteria to do that, right?
Yeah. Let's go next to Vincent.
Hey, Justin, thanks for doing this.
Sure.
So we like pitching to creators, and obviously they're really successful. So we're trying to keep the pitch short, but at the same time want to address, the things you brought up, like how do we make sure it doesn't take a ton of their time? So can you give an example of what like a killer cold email might be, what they might address ahead of time?
Yeah, so personalization, like number one, is the name of the game. Is like just spend a couple minutes and like understand. Go check their latest Instagram posts. Did they just have a baby? Congratulate them. Like very simple personal touches like that. This is like cold email 101. It's not just about creators, right? It's like show some personal level of empathy of like, you know, that you've actually like can like recognize something that happened in their life or whatever, right? That's number one, I would say. Number two is we were talking about no lift diversification, right? I've seen some companies do this, which I think is a great tactic, is like spin up a very easy landing page for them with their profile photo on it and be like, hey, I just made a like little, you know, a private or unlisted, you know, landing page for you that demonstrates how this would work for you. Right. And that's the link you send. Right. And be like, hey, like, you know, I think you'd really find this compelling. We spent some time like analyzing your content and like just put thought into it. And then the third thing that I would say that would really illustrate to a creator that you understand them is really trying to do a bunch of market research and talking to creators and understanding, again, the revenue mix of your creators. So if you can say, like, look, I know that you likely make a very substantial income from streaming subscriptions or whatever it is, or brand deals or whatever it is, merch. You could look at their, you know, profiles and things like that. However, I think that this could become a very meaningful part of your income for these reasons or something, right? So it's like, wow, like immediately, like they understand me.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go next to Ignacio.
Right. Thanks, Justin, again for doing this. It's great. So yeah, I've seen a lot of creators have this pain point where they don't actually really know that much about their audience. So like if you go on Instagram on your account, you can see like this dashboard, which shows you sort of the distribution of like gender, city, and a bunch of other things. But like you don't really know like what percentage of your fans are like super fans or like, I don't know, let's say that you're a dubbing actor. You don't really know if like they're following you because they want to be dubbing actors, or they're following you because they really like the character that you dub. Like you don't really know much about why they're there.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if you've seen like different interesting ways in which creators like analyze their audience and understand like the deeper level wise of things, not just like the demographic things that tools like Instagram provide.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the two tried and true way are just ask them. Surveys, polls. Do polls on Instagram stories, do email segmentation. So you do a survey in your email, like if you have an email list, which I try to teach every creators to have, you can do segmentation surveys, right? So you do surveys and then you segment your audience based on how they answer those questions, right? So it's like if you understand that you have a dubbing artist or, you know, they for animation or whatever, they're following you for certain reasons, then you can, especially if you're monetizing them directly with other products, merchandise, courses, you know, these types of things. That's really the methodology that I've found to be most successful, because there's really, in closed garden like environments or walled garden, it's just very difficult to really have much of an understanding about your audience in that way. So you just got to take it off platform and do it manually.
The next question is from Casey Abramson.
Hello. My question is, which major social platform do you think is best supporting creators right now, and why? And no shade to any platforms that are represented in this course. I'm just genuinely
Everyone is represented in this course.
Yeah.
We're on the edge of our seats.
So it's okay. So let me tell you the challenge, which is that I'm going to try and answer your question directly, but I'm going to be honest, which is that there is this like lingering resentment that a lot of creators feel towards most platforms, that they're catering to the top tier creators, right? Whether it's perks or trips or, you know, urban legends that they get preferential treatment by the algorithms, you know, spotlight features, these types of things. They're really, amongst a lot of the creators that I talk to in a lot of different platforms and content verticals, there is just the general sense that the platforms don't care about the everyday creator. I think TikTok probably, just by the nature of the content and the types of creators that have risen to prominence on the platform, is probably the best in terms of bucking that stereotype. and they've done a lot of great things with the Creator Fund and things like that. Paul, I'm giving you a shout out over there, bro. But it's like, I think things like that, and so it's hard because it's like, to some degree, it's the nature of the type of content that performs well on a certain platform, probably, that curates whether they want it to or not, the perspective that most creators have about it. I actually do think that YouTube has done a quite good job, and Twitch too, like generating creator education collateral and things like that. I would say that the biggest frustration is that anytime something happens that is catastrophic to a creator's business, getting demonetized, getting strikes, getting these things, like shadow banned, things like that on different platforms, there's no one to talk to. Right. And so that was why I think that was like the original goal of the MCN model, was like to have some sort of intermediary that they could funnel that administrative angst to. Right. But I know that's kind of a sidestep to the question, but it's just, I would say, it's just tough. I get it. It's tough to like service on one-on-one, like every creator who are like smaller and things like that. But I would say that's just the general, like, I honestly, like in my Facebook group, amongst group threads and things like that, there's always these like frantic, like, oh my God, I got like locked out of my account, or like I, got these videos taken down or whatever like that. And it's like a very, very like serious thing to the creator. Right. But there's like literally nothing they can do. They just get like form responses like, we'll respond to you in 3 business days. Do you understand how long 72 hours is when you like are dealing with an issue like that and you're a full-time content creator? It's chaos. Right. So it's just like, I'm just trying to like get your like mindset and like how serious some of this stuff can be. And so it's, yeah, sorry. I don't know if that answered the question or not, but that's where my mind went.
No, that definitely answered it. Thank you.
The commonality of those companies that you mentioned is that Paul used to work for both of them. So
I know, Paul. Paul, I'm going to Venmo you too,
gets all
bro.
the credit.
Nothing.
Let's go to Alex Kim.
Hey, what up, Justin? I'd love to hear how you personally navigated your mental health as a creator. Obviously, you've had like this long career, so more specific anxiety and burnout, and what kind of steps or resources you found to be most helpful.
I appreciate that question, Alex. Thank you. My wife and I have been through a lot. We've had stalkers. We've had people stalking us at the park, taking pictures of our family, posting them on hate threads. We've gotten, just vitriol in our comment sections. So we've been through it all, in terms of like what that does to you and being a creator and things like that. I honestly feel relatively thankful that we were a little bit older, I would say, when we kind of like grew our following and things like that, because I think we were able to have a little bit of perspective around that type of thing. But a young kid, Gen Z, something like that, especially if they don't really have anyone who in their circle of friends or, to talk to about that, it's really hard. It's really hard, not only from an algorithmic perspective of like maintaining the content cadence, but just understanding what it's like to just get 100 positive comments and like 1 criticism of like something that really hit you to the bone. Right. So, I think, one thing that is just like, it's very hard because like my wife and I's like business is our family. It's our life to some degree. Right. So for a lot of creators, that's the case, right? They rise to prominence in like talking about a specific thing, but then their followers get very interested in them as people. And so everything becomes fair game at that point, right? So it's like you're under the microscope from tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people sometimes, right? So understanding how to like have that work-life balance and understanding when you can shut off. Like my wife and I work constantly, even after 10 years. It's just like the nature of the beast being a creator. But it's like, so just having that work-life balance is critical. Having a group of friends that are also creators that you can rely on to like share that, those experiences. Hey, like, what did you do in this situation? This type of thing. Right. And honestly, like having perspective, if like you want this to be a, long-term career, you do need to have a long-term perspective of like financially how you're going to diversify your business, because a lot of the anxiety comes from like not knowing whether they're going to be able to do this thing much longer. You know, so I think it's all tied up in mental health and yeah, obviously therapists and things like that too is really critical. But I think there's a lot more that platforms, and that's why I wanted to talk about it in this slide or in this presentation, because I think there's a lot more that platforms that can be doing rather than kind of virtue signaling about like the importance of mental health. But like, no, how are you implementing like platform features like PTO, UCI, things like this, where truly creators will not be penalized in the algorithm for taking a break, and they're, you know, compensated a rolling average of their last, 50 weeks content or whatever it is, right? How can you take strides towards that? You know?
Awesome. Let's go to Gil for the next question. By the way, nice background.
Cheers. I made it myself. Yeah. Do you think there will be pardon the hockey game in the background. Do you think there will be a proliferation of smaller platforms that enable the creator middle class to monetize, or will it be the existing players?
So, I mean, the way it works today, right, is that most creators leverage the existing players to pull their followers elsewhere, right? Whether it's Substack or whether it's Creator, ConvertKit or whatever, to like own their audience and things like that, and then market them these other tools. Because honestly, it's all about discovery. I mean, I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but like, you think about like Patreon and Substack and things like that. Discovery, I think, is challenging on tools like that, right? They're not necessarily like discovery engines. I mean, maybe they're, trying to take strides toward that, but like, you kind of do, you're beholden to the, the big 4, big 5 social platforms to like gain an audience and then, take them elsewhere. And so, what most upstarts I think are doing now is like needing to leverage those, right? And then their long-term vision is to like build out a more comprehensive ecosystem with discovery and things like that. Once they get a critical mass of creators on their platform using their app, things like that. I mean, because you've got the flywheel, right? You've got creators bringing followers over to utilize those services, and then they bring their fans, and then other creators see that happening, and then you get this flywheel effect. And I think that if you're smart, that's probably what you should be doing as a startup in today's age. Otherwise, you're always going to be beholden to the main platforms for acquisition.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think to my last workshop, like I think a large portion of the creator middle class is going to monetize through offering multiple SKUs and creating different products and different business models for themselves. And it's hard for me to imagine that every major platform offers all of those SKUs in a best-in-class way. I just don't think like Facebook is going to build Substack plus Cameo plus Patreon plus like all of these other things that a creator could possibly want to leverage depending on their very unique fan base mix and their content type and what their fans want. So I think there's going to continue to be a lot of smaller platforms that offer the ability to create one of these SKUs and does it really well.
One thing that you posed this on Twitter recently or something, and I'll just give a quick shout out to a company I was on the phone with earlier today, which is Koji. And so I think they're doing something really interesting on doubling down on their developer ecosystem, right? Because it's very hard to like imagine like what are creators really going to want or like what services and SKUs and things like that are different types of creators going to be wanting in the future. So it's like, why not create a platform where you can essentially let anyone develop something in terms of on your layer. So I actually think that line of thinking is important,
Awesome. Great. So there's more questions, but we have 4 minutes left. So maybe Justin is in the Slack, so you guys can ping him, or he can go into the workshop questions and answer directly from there. So you can leave more questions in the workshop questions for Justin. But thank you so much, Justin, for being here today. We'll do a little round of applause. Thank you. And before you guys go, I just wanted to quickly walk through this week's assignment. So I will share my screen. Cool. You guys can see this, right? So basically this week's assignment to Justin's question at the beginning of how many creators have you guys talked to recently, or when was the last time you talked to a creator? So the assignment is to talk to creators. That is the first part of this week's assignment, is go talk to at least one but really as many as possible, creators as possible. Build a relationship with them. Ask them. I put in some questions just to sort of seed the conversation. You guys can ask any sort of questions that you want, but really go out into the field and talk to creators. And if you have a challenging time finding creators that are willing to talk to you, you can use marketplaces like Cameo and Hey Hero. We're all about supporting the creator middle class and compensating them for their time too. So maybe you should use some of those marketplaces and get in contact with them that way. So that's one idea. And then, yeah, we'll talk about the second half of the assignment later on. And then there's a bunch of reading that I think is really fascinating. It's really a mix of written pieces plus podcasts and videos. I pulled in Addison Rae's podcast, which is on Spotify. It's available to everyone for free. And then a Jojo Siwa YouTube. I'm obsessed with her. And I think this particular interview that she did with Logan Paul goes really deep into how she built her business and her empire, her JoJo empire. And then there's some other really cool links in there as well that Justin included. So take a look at the assignment doc and drop in your assignments into the shared Google folder. And then we'll be back on Thursday. Conrad Wadowski, who is the co-founder of Teachable and used to lead growth at Teachable, is coming in to give a guest workshop on a topic that is very relevant to all of the early stage companies in here. It's about finding product market fit and solving the cold start problem for creators, how to get your initial creators on board. So he basically, grew the initial base of Teachable creators. Teachable is actually a really hard creator product to grow because there's so much effort into what goes into creating a course. So they have a really long activation funnel. So he's going to talk about that experience and package up a lot of his insights from running Teachable and angel investing in the creator economy.